I've survived my third semester, and I'm in the break between the two. And my parents discover that I'm not living at the Adams family house anymore. Now, she's still getting her money, but she's pointing out that I'm never there. So they ask me what's going on. Well, me being the person I am, I tell them the truth. Which I'm going to tell you, for me, never has proven to work out very well. I hope God appreciates it, because it sure as shit makes my life a mess. Even when I try to not tell the truth, it's difficult. In other words, not volunteer information. Anyway, they told me I had to find a place to live, so I find a place. And it happens to be 2 doors down, literally 2 doors down, inside the house where Booker and Sicky live. Now, this is not a good thing, because now I'm right beside my Padres, or whatever you want to call them. And between us is the world's oldest hippie. This guy looked like, man, I never seen anybody that looked like they were rode hard and put away wet so many times. They're all stringy, and he's some kind of, well, I'm not even sure what to call him, man. Anyway, he got in a lot of trouble at Berkeley in his younger days, and actually had to go underground and had his name changed. So his whole identity is different, which has made him now less than even a graduate of high school. So he's there taking classes, night classes, to get his high school diploma. And he's always talking about, like he's maybe into fascism or communism. I'm not sure what he was into, because once he got on one of his rants, it was crazy as could be. So anyway, I move into this room. Now, this room, literally, I could touch both walls. And, it was like a cot in there and a metal cabinet, and that was it. I didn't care. It was a place to stay, and my mother would take and fix up a cooler full of food every week for me. And Booker and Sicky's room had a stove in it. So I'd go over there and I'd fix meals for everybody. I never went home with any food. It was all gone. And actually it worked out rather well. So I had moved out. I wasn't with my girlfriend anymore. Of course, she then, we ended up being together most of the time anyway. So now I'm in my 4th semester, and my teacher in my major, he don't like me. Now, it doesn't bother me at all until this one day when I'm running the surface grinder, which uses a magnetic chuck. And the magnetic chuck didn't hold the part that I was grinding, and he kicked it off the machine. He accused me of not ever turning the magnet on, which I had turned it on. I turned it off after it exploded, if you will. Later on, I found out the tubes in the magnetic controller were getting old and weak, and so the power wasn't there to hold the part on. Now, of course, he wouldn't tell me that. He would just keep pointing out the fact I was an asshole, which was fine. And I can remember one other time when I was setting up a part to do some cylindrical grinding, and it's very tedious. It doesn't bother me because it's just what you got to do, And just as I get started on the bell rings for us to clean up, And he comes over and he laughs real loud, letting everybody know that I'm going to have to start all over tomorrow lining this thing up again. And it'll take forever, which it didn't. It didn't take me long at all the next day, but, you know, he had to make me feel stupid if he could. For some reason, in that case, in those circumstances, it didn't bother me. So I was dealing with him, and I also had the worst teacher in the world. He was smart, but he couldn't teach worth anything. And that was my metallurgy teacher. This guy came in, he was old and frail, or at least he looked like it. He smoked cigarettes. Now this is back, and he would smoke during class, and in fact he was a chain smoker. So he didn't even let one go out before he lit another one up off of the one he was, you know, finishing. And he was so shaky that if he drew a circle, it looked like a saw blade, a circular saw blade. And if he drew a line, it looked about like a straight blade saw blade. It was that bad. It really was. I mean, this is not an exaggeration at all. And when he would teach metallurgy, he would read it one way, and that was it. And if you asked him the question, well, can you explain this, you know, better? He would reiterate the exact same thing as he said before. I mean, he was terrible. He couldn't give you any vision of what was going on when atoms shift in their positioning and all that due to heat and stuff like that. And just a terrible person to be able to educate you. But here, I'm going to add even one more thing as to how bad he was. When he walked in the room the first day, he said that there'll be no A's. There might be a B. There'll be a couple C's, a couple D's, and the rest of you will have F's. I don't grade on a curve. So you can't, you know, pass based on that. And he says, oh, but he says, I will move the F's up to D's if you try. Now that's a lot of explanation. That was it. So you knew you were going to fail before you even got started. And he justified the class because he said that a physics teacher took it and was able to pass. He also said that if he had his way, you would have a second semester in physics, 2 semesters in the study of light, 1 semester the study of heat, and it would take 2 semesters to cover this book. He says, but we will cover the entire book all this semester. He would cover 5 chapters at a time, and there would be 5 essay questions. And if you asked him, well, where should we study for these questions? Where in the book will these questions come from? He said all of it. So it was really hopeless. Now, I went to him twice, and he gave me the same answers when I asked questions as the way he talked in the room. Nothing else. Oh, he also admitted that every cigarette he smoked was another nail in his coffin. He knew he was killing himself. So that was somewhat interesting. Needless to say, some days I went there tripping because I just didn't see any way I was going to be able to do anything with it. I did pass with a D, which I'm sure he moved to a D. In other words, I'm sure it was an F that he moved to a D. Now, another thing that happened in this thing is I took some road trips and had some excitement. One time wanted to go to Allentown because that's where the pagans hang out, and there I had 2 ounces of pure killer weed waiting for me. So I had bought 2 of them for a total of $400. We got ready to leave in my Camaro, and as we're heading up out of the hole of Williamsport, going up that steep mountain, something cracks or makes a noise and my engine starts vibrating. Now I got Booker and Sicky with me, and we pull over at the Sky View or whatever it's called to look down on there, and here one of the blades of my fan came off. This was an aluminum fan, and it had flexed enough that it work hardened, and the one blade fatigued and came off. So now what am I going to do? This thing isn't going to go this way. It was fairly cold out, so I decided that I can just take off the fan blade across from it. Now it wasn't exactly across from it, but it was close enough. So I looked at him, I grabbed the one, started twisting on it, and tore it off. And the guys can't believe it, but start the car up and run smooth again. So on our way we go. So we get to Allentown. I think it was like an hour-and-a-half drive, something like that. And we have to go running around, find this stuff, and we had to stop at a couple bars and visit his ex-wife, who still is hoping that he'll come back to her. And of course we're getting wasted the whole time and smoking and everything else. And then we get to this one apartment, and there's a sign on front of the tank, and Booker doesn't look at it, and he sticks his finger in there, and that damn piranha come screaming over there and grabbed a hold of the end of his finger. Well, didn't grab a hold of it, tried to grab a hold of it. His razor teeth cut the end of Booker's finger, but that was about it. But it was a razor cut. It was a little scary because I yelled when he stuck his finger in there. He was, you know, he was out of it. And anyway, we then purchased our stuff, smoked some of it up, got a good high on, and then drove home. Now driving home, we're on one of the turnpikes or whatever where you can't get off, and nothing seems normal. We're going so slow it's ridiculous, but I know better than to drive by my feelings. I'm driving by my gauges. My gauges say I'm going 60 miles an hour, but it feels like we're going 10. And the moon is right in front of us, and it just looks like we are on a road to the moon. And in fact, when we got back, I said, we just went to the moon and back. And the guys were laughing and all that because of it. It was an experience. Now I'll tell you about one more road trip. Actually, probably 2. I had one where I was coming to college, and I didn't know why traffic was backed up. I was above Harrisburg. It was 4 lanes. Things should have been moving. Finally got to where things were going wrong, and it wasn't on our side, it was on the other side, but there were snowmobiles and snowmobile trailers and cars all over the damn place. It was black ice, and these guys were all coming home and just annihilated each other. So I expected to see a big backup behind that, and we get past that, and it's still going slow as hell. Well, further up, there's another pile up of snowmobiles all over the damn place. cross this bridge, and here's this long hill. It comes down around a turn, which means people that are coming down the hill can't see all this crap that's going on. And at this point, we're driving only in one lane. Well, actually, we're driving off the road in one lane to get some traction on the stones that are on the edge, even though it's with 2 lanes our direction. But without that, we couldn't go anywhere. So I'm watching the traffic on the other side, and here comes this tractor trailer over top the hill, and I go, oh boy, this is going to be bad. And he tries to slow down, and his tractor swivels one way, swivels the other, and then it comes back and it's jackknifed. And here it comes across the medium strip, which is a curb, and it hits that curb, and lights are being knocked out of the front end of the truck, and all the poles that are sitting there are being knocked off, and the truck's flying everywhere, and I'm seeing that he's aiming for me. And I pull up behind this tractor trailer that I've been following, but not as close, and I stayed as tight to him as possible. And I was so focused that once we got up the road a little ways, I looked back and there wasn't one car behind me. I was the last one. One hell of a trip. Another time I almost got blown off the road because of side winds. I was being blown off the road. A tractor trailer coming the other way blocked the wind. I almost hit the tractor trailer because it blocked the wind, and I went towards it. So I turned back the other way. Then the tractor trailer goes by. Now the wind's hitting me again, and I literally went all the way off the road. And then this last one. This one's a tough one to talk about. I'm on my way home, just a normal day. And for some reason, Pennsylvania had 3-lane highways above Harrisburg. And there was this real long straight stretch. And they actually had houses built along 15. And each one of them houses had a mailbox on the other side of 15. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm coming down the road, and I can see quite far ahead, and I see this little boy, and he goes across the road to get the mail. Now, that bothered me just in the fact that I didn't see anybody there, you know, watching for him. After he gets across the road and looks in the mailbox, I'm just about passing where he's at, so I know I'm not going to be a problem. But I noticed this little black puppy running out towards him, and I thought, oh no. And I look in the rear view mirror, and that dog comes out across that road and gets hit. And there's a little boy standing on the other side of the road screaming. I mean, I couldn't hear him, obviously, but crying his eyes out. And I can never get that out of my mind. It really bothers me. I just hoped he wouldn't cross the road. It appeared he kept his cool enough to stay there, and I could see, even though the house was a little ways off the road, it looked like the mother was coming out the front door. So I guess it, you know, as far as for a little boy, it was fine, but that was one of the stupidest things I ever saw, with trusting a child and then having a puppy and everything else. It just made no sense to me. Another adventure. One day I found out that Sickie had been arrested. I didn't know what for, and frankly, I don't think they knew what for. They just knew he was a pagan. This is in Williamsport. And I had known he had done something, he had made some kind of deal on the way because I was with him. And I don't know what he bought, and all, but anyway, he calls me up and he says to, go through his room and get stuff out. Actually, the idea of him calling on the phone seemed ridiculous, but he did it anyway. I went in there. Now, he might have had a little bit of drugs and money, but nothing substantial. But here I pulled his bag out, and there's a sawed-off shotgun in there with a swivel second grip on the side, and a flashlight that sticks to it that has a beam the same width as the shot that comes out the end of the barrel, so whatever is lit up is going to get hit. Has a swivel stock on it that's extendable and semi-automatic, and it's police issue. Somebody had stole this damn thing from the police department. And I found out there was a big to-do about it, but since I never paid attention to the news, I didn't know about it. It would fit in my suitcase, my Samsonite luggage. That's how short it was. I mean, this thing was compact. So I ended up a couple weeks later, when I left town, he got out of jail, he left town. We met on a dirt road and made the swap, and I was done with it. But interesting, I guess I'm gonna have to stop there. I had to start a new one to give us a break or something. Well, see you next time.